Pranakasha livestream.
Hey folks, it's Matt at Pranakasha Productions, and today we are talking with my good friend Kelly Moore, who Kelly and I met at Lake Union Civic Orchestra. I was playing in the violins and you were playing in the violas, right?
Yes.
And then later on at some point you also played viola in Octava Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so that's how we know each other. And
Yeah.
then just as fate would have it, we just are playing a gig right now for a women's choir. In fact, I also brought this.
Oh, excellent. The program.
This is what we're doing. Standing Tall. It's an all-women's choir, and with a string quartet plus percussion and piano, which is a surprisingly really good combination. And it's conducted by Rebecca, I hope I say her name right, Rotsolk. Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, it was pure chance that we ended up playing this gig together a week before we were going to do this interview. We didn't even know that we were doing that gig when we were first booking this. So, lots to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
thanks so much for having me.
And then I didn't even know that you were so involved in Icicle Creek, too.
Yeah, involved with Icicle Creek and this music school, Juniper Music School, that my best friend and I have started together. And I keep busy with NOCO, North Corner Chamber Orchestra. So lots of little things going on.
I know. I've actually never been to a NOCO concert, but I keep getting emails and I keep hearing about it. But isn't oh darn it! He's one of my mom's students. Okay, shoot, Marcus Talley, isn't he in that group?
Yes, Marcus and his wife Andrea are both in it. Absolutely.
Right. And I think they were in the very first concert.
Yeah, I think they've been in it from the very beginning. I started playing with them maybe 3 or 4 years into their existence.
Okay.
So I'm not totally sure who's been in it from the beginning, but I know who the founders are, and I'm pretty sure that Marcus and Andrea have been playing with them for a very long time.
Yeah. How many years have they been going now?
I want to say almost 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, there's been incredible growth.
Wow.
We're so grateful for. We managed to have some virtual concerts and have successful fundraising. So
great.
Yeah, it's really fun to see it continue to grow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And you guys, you don't have a conductor, right? You just all do it yourselves.
Yes. So rehearsal is run democratically, which with musicians and big personalities, it's different than going to a rehearsal with a conductor. That's definitely a different feeling, but it's an incredible experience because as a musician, even if you're just in a section and not a principal, you still have to know your part incredibly well. And of course, everyone else's part, because you can't rely on a cue from the conductor. You really have to know how things fit together. And it's definitely a different experience. It requires a lot more brain power and preparation than most orchestral things. But I think the outcome is really rewarding, and the group has a lot of energy because of that. Everyone has to be engaged to the fullest for it to be successful.
Yeah. And you guys don't do like what I would call easy pieces. You do some stuff that's like designed to have a conductor in it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, is the concert master kind of in charge, or how does that?
Yeah, there's typically the concert master position tends to rotate between a few people, but whoever's in that role, or sometimes someone maybe from the winds will sort of be the designated leader for a particular piece and lead like the shape and the planning of what a rehearsal looks like. But if people have opinions about phrasing, articulation, anything like that, especially in the first couple of rehearsals, anyone is welcome to speak up with their opinion. And, we can try it. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. But the idea is that anyone can speak up with their musical ideas.
Wow, to me that sounds like chaos. But obviously there's some kind of structure you guys have developed.
Yeah, and
Like,
I think it's taken a while to kind of find a
okay,
stride, and it's always something that's in progress. Kind of how can we communicate with each other effectively, kindly, with
productively.
patience. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. How many winds are there? I didn't. I thought it was just strings. Yeah.
No full, it depends on the piece. Concert in the fall, we played Beethoven 7.
What?
So
You did a Beethoven symphony with no conductor,
yeah, yeah.
and it didn't fall apart?
No, no, it was a lot of fun. We also played,
What the heck? How can, like, I got it. Sorry.
yeah,
Like,
no.
you guys must have some kind of plan, like, no matter what, we only get X amount of time on this
Mhm,
piece. So,
mhm.
and we got to get this far through it. So, we can't hit everybody. I mean, you
Yes,
have something
definitely.
like that, right?
There's definitely a rehearsal schedule that's set in advance. And
Okay.
whoever's in charge, I think, kind of has spots that they want to look at. And people can say, like, I felt shaky about this transition. Can we do that again? But there's definitely like priorities are set for sections and transitions. But yeah, on that same concert, we performed the Nielsen Flute Concerto with Jeffrey Barker from the Seattle Symphony, also without a conductor. And it's an incredible experience, though, to get to put something together like that is not it's not a Haydn symphony, I guess. I'll say it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
it doesn't play itself. But it's really rewarding. It's one of the most challenging things that I take part in, and also the most rewarding, I think.
wow. And I think you guys have done like the Prokofiev First Symphony, right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah, that
can't
was a
even
trip.
imagine doing that without a conductor.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, and that's where you really have to know the score, whether you're in a leadership position or in a section. Um, you can't just show up and kind of drop in and play. You really have to know what's going on, and have cues written in your part, and just be, I don't think there's such a thing as being too prepared for those rehearsals.
Okay. And that, wow, that's crazy. See, I thought you guys were just a string orchestra still. See,
Yeah,
even a string
full.
orchestra doing that is a pretty big
Yeah,
thing to
with
do, but I've
soloist.
never ever heard of a symphony. Is there any other symphony orchestras in the world that do this?
I think I can't recall their name off the top of my head. I want to say that there's a group in France and possibly a group in Scotland that perform without a conductor.
I mean, how do you even agree on the tempos?
Yeah, I mean, that's tricky. There is some, it's an interesting balance between sort of complete true democracy and someone saying, these are the tempos that we've decided on. And if someone says, that's too fast, I really can't play that, or this is too slow, I don't have enough breath for this phrase, then there's room, there's of course wiggle room to accommodate that. But a lot of that is set in advance.
Okay, I
So
was going to say,
yeah, there's still
yeah,
some I guess hierarchy, for lack of a better word, of like there are
it
decisions
has
that
to
are
be.
made.
Yeah, there has to
There
be.
have to be, so it's not complete
I mean,
anarchy.
in
But
my experience, whenever you have try a pure democracy,
yeah,
what always happens is that certain leadership people rise above it, and they kind of
yes.
are the leaders who move the democracy in a certain way. So it
Mhm.
always ends up happening. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely, yeah, I think it's impossible for it to be perfectly democratic, but I think for a lot of people who spend a lot of time playing with the symphony or just various regional orchestras, to have the freedom to come to an orchestra like this and feel like if you have an idea or a certain way you've always wanted to do something, you have the flexibility and freedom to do that, where
right.
you wouldn't in a normal symphonic situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
wild. It's
Well,
definitely, we're actually getting ready to premiere a piece by a composer. I don't know how to say her last name. Unfortunately, her name is Eva. I'm going to guess Trebach is her last name, but her piece is called A Machine for Entropy. And I was
oh,
reading her program notes, and she said that she was inspired by the idea of a conductorless chamber
this
orchestra
orchestra.
having a certain amount of
Okay.
capacity for entropy. So she
Aha.
wrote a piece based on that, and I'm really excited
So
to
she
hear about
literally
it.
wrote it for your group.
Yeah, it was commissioned by NOCO, and we'll be
Great.
premiering it. Yeah,
Wow, that is really something. That's interesting in itself.
yeah. So I
Ooh.
love that she took that idea of there is the capacity for things to go haywire. If one thing kind of falls out of line, like wild things can happen. And so I think her piece is sort of inspired by that possibility.
Designed like that.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of pieces. I mean, there was a whole thing. It was a time when there were minimalist pieces that were written that way, where you just put little fragments on the score, and then you just sort of vaguely come in at a certain time, and then see how it all builds up. So I don't know if maybe that's what she's going to do with that, or
it's definitely it's fully written out. We don't have any. There's no sort of decision making left up to the musician. It's fully composed. But
so you got to count the rest and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, but the rhythms and kind of extended techniques are. It lives up to its name in a wonderful way.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are already rehearsing it.
We're getting ready to. They just sent out the parts, and I was looking at them yesterday. And we're also playing a piece by Hindemith that I'd never heard of, and apparently it's never been performed in the United States, which is wild. To imagine that
for sure, it's never been performed without a conductor, probably in the whole world.
Yeah. Well, I saw the rental agreement said like this is the first performance in the United States. It's called Lustig Symphonyetta, Merry Symphony, and it's Opus 4, so a very early piece for him. I think just I want to say 1916 maybe. So he was very early in his career, and it's not quite as tense, I guess, or heavy as a lot of his music is. But so it's going to be a fantastic program.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's
crazy to think that such a well-known composer as Hindemith, that there's a piece that hasn't been performed in America. That's wild. So I'm glad that we're doing that.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, to tell you the truth, I really don't know that much Hindemith, or I haven't played that much. I think the only thing I played is the Symphonic Metamorphosis.
Yes.
Which is, from what I remember, it's actually based on, is it Bach or Mozart? I think it's a Mozart theme.
That sounds familiar.
It's got a tonal core to it, and then it goes off and does this Hindemith thing with it. Yeah.
I mean, the main reason I'm familiar with him is that he was a violist. And so he's written an incredible
viola concerto
of sonatas for solo viola, viola and piano. I want to say a strange chamber music piece for viola, heckelphone, and piano. I don't know. He wrote a lot for viola. So through that, I've encountered a lot of his works, but not that many orchestral pieces. So I'm excited to play this.
Okay, so what's a heckelphone?
I can't remember. I want to say it's a relative of a saxophone, because when I played it was a soprano saxophone that ended up
doing it. Okay.
So I think it's a period instrument, but most people end up playing it on a modern saxophone. Okay,
kind of like how a lot of times you'll play basset horn parts on clarinet type of thing. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Wow, so that's already super interesting. And you've been in NOCO for how many years now?
Oh, goodness. I'm not sure. I want to say at least 4 or 5 years, if not more.
Wow.
I'm part of the rotating leadership. Sometimes I play principal viola, but we tend to share it within the section, which is actually nice. It's really fun to be in that position, but I'm really glad that we share it, because it's a lot of work. And a lot of preparation that goes into it.
So when you're a principal, you have to figure out all the bowings, right?
Yeah, work on bowings. And there's usually a leader's rehearsal that's open to anyone who's available to come, but where, we try and solidify maybe style and articulation, tempos, that kind of thing. So there's a dedicated leader's rehearsal, and then the next rehearsal is everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the leader's rehearsal is basically kind of like a string quartet rehearsing itself.
Yes, with wind players who are available. Yeah, it feels a little more normal.
Yeah, so that I can see how that could work. But then when you throw in the winds, that's just wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, the closest thing I've ever had to that is back when like Union Civic Orchestra had Christophe Chagnard.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times he would say, "Okay, I'm going to start you off, and I'm going to walk away, and you guys have to play it yourself."
Yeah.
And that's a trick a lot of conductors do.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had that experience, but I can't imagine playing an entire concert like that.
Yeah,
So, wow.
it really asks a lot. Something we talk about is movement, because you cannot just sit in your seat. That's a big part of it. You need cues and you need physical movement, even if you're not playing. Sometimes a bassoonist will say, I really need someone to kind of be showing the tempo here because I can't see the concertmaster in this moment, and I need you to kind of reflect what's going on. So everyone at any given moment is kind of responsible for mirroring what's going on, so that there's always a channel of communication available.
Do you guys have YouTube videos?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the links. I'm going to put that in the description.
That'd be great.
That's a sidetrack because I had no idea we were going to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I thought we were going to talk about Icicle Creek and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to plug this concert that we're doing before I forget.
Yes.
So we've already done 3 concerts, haven't we? Or 2?
I think just 2.
Okay, 2. We've done 2. We've got one more that's going to be at Shoreline Unitarian Church this Sunday at 2 p.m., right?
Yes.
Okay. And the thing that's cool about this concert is it's an all-women's choir. Every single composer on the program is a woman. So it's all about female power, right?
Yes.
And then the big piece, all the pieces on the program are really neat. And did you notice yesterday when we did the encore that the conductor was trying as hard as she could not to start bawling?
Yeah,
there was tears really streaming moved down her face because she was so moved. And she was really, I watched her the whole time. She was doing the best to hold it together so she could keep conducting. But obviously, just the music and the lyrics of that song are really powerful.
They're so moving. I was struggling on Saturday. The first time we heard it, I was crying a little bit during it. I thought it was really beautiful.
Yeah, I was really getting into it.
Yeah.
It's funny because that particular piece was only for choir and piano. So the rest of the orchestra just kind of sat there and listened and participated. We were audience members at that point. But it was neat. So it was really good. Anyhow, so there's a lot of great pieces on it, but the main piece is this thing called the Suffrage Cantata. So, and that suffrage meaning universal suffrage, meaning the ability to vote. So the cantata is like a little miniature history lesson that tells you everything that women went through to finally be able to vote in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. And this stuff didn't happen that long ago.
No, shockingly, especially for women of color. I think 1968 was the most recent voting act that was passed, and it's a wild and violent journey. I
mean, it was. I knew some of this, but I mean, the thing is, when I took history in school, they kind of just glossed over it all.
Yeah,
they never told you all the gory details and made it real.
No.
Like you hear this and you're like, what the?
It's kind of
women getting
upsetting.
I mean, there was like women were getting like beat up, and thrown in jail and put in straitjackets and like
force fed,
and all this stuff.
Beaten. Yeah, no, it was terrible.
But they believed in it strong enough. They were willing to put up with all that to be able to vote.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's really moving.
It's like the Salem witch trials, except it's happening in the United States of America. Some of the stuff is going on in the 20s.
Well, and the same thing to me, the witch trials always felt like a way to try and keep women in their place. That probably more than anything, women were learning about healing and herbs and certain skills to be useful in their society, and men didn't want them leaving their station. And so in both ways, it was a way to just sort of to beat them back into where they belonged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So there was, so just from that point of view, just a little miniature history lesson was enough, but then the music was great. It set everything. It was all, and the soloists were wonderful. The choir sounded great. I think there's
and the multimedia is wonderful too, to see, to have the narration. It's not just singing, there's narration going on, kind of explaining the history. And the multimedia, seeing pictures and seeing faces of what Susan B. Anthony looked like, what Ida B. Wells looked like, to really see their faces and put a face to the name, I guess, was helps make it really moving.
Yeah, it was. It's just super. It's just a really great performance. You should definitely go if you have some time on Sunday. Again, like I said, it was 2:00. Shoreline Unitarian Church, and it's by the Miraness Choir, and the program is called Standing Tall, and then the Suffrage Cantata is the thing that we're talking about right now by Andrea Ramsey, and our wonderful conductor is Rebecca Rotsolk, and I'll put a link to all that in the description too. So quite exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I was expecting to be talking about Icicle Creek by
now.
So
yeah, no.
Or if you want to talk about the Juniper, actually the Juniper, maybe you want to talk about that too.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'd love to hear how you created that and
so my friend and I, Kimmy Herenstein, started a teaching business together. I don't know how many years ago, especially the last couple of years, any grasp on the passage of time has just deteriorated. But I want to say maybe 6 years ago, we started something called KNK Music Studios, where we wanted to try and have a little collection of teachers that work together so we could have joint recitals and sort of combine our powers together.
And her name starts with a K, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
So we were KNK. Kimmy Herenstein. She's a wonderful violinist and violist as well.
Kimmy and Kelly, KNK.
Yes, Kimmy and Kelly. And so she's my best friend. And
from how long ago?
So that was probably, we started KNK probably 6 or 7 years ago. I think so.
And you guys were like best friends?
I met her when we were 15 at a summer camp. That was actually kind of an
band camp
at a chamber music camp. But yeah, we were at what was sort of an offshoot of Icicle Creek that was called Kairos Lyceum. Okay. And we met at this camp, and then a couple, life happened. I didn't grow up in this area and she did, but we met there. And then we both kind of went to school and eventually both ended up back in Seattle, and we were at a gig together and we're like, wait, I know you. Yeah. And we started hanging out, and we ended up working together a lot because we were both coaches through Seattle Youth Symphony's programs that sent coaches into schools. And so we were working together through that. We were both coaches for what used to be called Marrowstone in the City, but I think they just call it Icicle Summer Music now.
Okay, I remember that. I went to Marrowstone way back when.
Yeah. And so we were coaching together one summer, and we were carpooling to Bellevue from Seattle, and we were talking about these ideas that we had. And so the next day she just came back and was like, I built a website. So
you're the CEO and I'm the
she's a doer. I feel like I have a lot of ideas and I want to think about things and sort of mull them over, and she's the person that makes it happen. Like, we talk about something and she literally says like, look, I built a whole website myself overnight. So she's like a person of action, which is great because I am definitely, I'm going to think about it a little bit longer probably than.
So that's a great combination.
Yes. No, it's
they complement each other.
Yeah. And I think, working together, our friendship has strengthened. I think there's a risk sometimes when you start working with someone that's your friend, that can be complicated. But we have different strengths that complement each other really well, and we're still having fun. So yeah, we started KNK and then eventually decided to sort of undergo an identity shift and created Juniper Music School. Partially because I think people saw music studios and thought that we did recording, or I don't know, there was some sort of naming confusion. So we switched to Juniper Music School. And our goal is to be a collective, sort of a commune of teachers that work together. We don't have a physical space. People teach in their homes, but that's also how people can set their rates and get paid the amount that they want to, because a lot of music schools, teachers are getting paid $20 or $30 an hour, which is not what you should be getting paid if you're teaching private lessons.
Yeah.
So our goal is to try and connect with people. If they need help finding a place to teach, we want to help them do that. I'm lucky enough that I have this space here that I can teach in. But so everyone teaches independently. You set your own schedule, how many students you want, your own rates, but we combine and come together for master classes and recitals, chamber music. So we're trying to create a community, which has been challenging. We shifted to Juniper Music School during COVID.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So we're being patient. But so far we have 4 teachers that are with us, and we're looking for more. So if you're a teacher out there and you're looking
I'm a teacher.
Yeah. So
I've only got 1 student. Well, I have 1.5 students right now.
So yeah, we're always looking for new people to join in Seattle, because that's where our things are happening. But
Greater Seattle.
Yes, greater Seattle area, so that if we had a master class or a recital, it would be feasible for your students to be able to participate. And it doesn't have to be strings. We would love to have a clarinet teacher, piano teacher. It just brings greater opportunity for chamber music. And I think we kind of have hopes one day to be able to start a little orchestra maybe, or have a summer camp. So,
well, I got 3 questions.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully I'll remember them all by the time we get to them. Number 1, how did you come up with the idea of Juniper?
Well, I wish it was more exciting, but naming things is always really hard. And Kimmy was at her parents' house and she was in the backyard, and we'd gone through probably 25 different things. And each of us had said, no, I don't like that. No, that reminds me of this thing I don't like. No. And then she was looking around and saw a juniper bush in their backyard and was like, it's cute. Juniper. And we both thought that it sounded really warm, and I don't know, that it was cute enough, I guess, to be a name of something. And so we went with Juniper.
Great.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like Juniper. So it kind of sits in your mind. Okay. Okay. Question number 2. Do the kids, or do the people that take lessons, do they have to be kids, or do you also take adult students?
We have adult students also. I think all of us, I don't have any adult students right now, but I think all of our teachers do have at least 1 adult student or more.
Okay.
So anybody who's looking for lessons, and that's also something nice about having even more than 1 teacher per instrument. If someone gets in touch and says, hi, I'm looking for lessons, I'm available on these days, and here's what I'm looking for, then we can find someone that's, in a neighborhood that's convenient, a right fit for teaching style. So we were able to kind of play matchmaker between student and teacher.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, there was 3 questions. So what's number 3? Oh yeah, number 3. Are all the lessons in person, or do you also do like Zoom lessons and things like that?
We do Zoom lessons, and it's teacher to teacher now. For the most part, I'm seeing my students in person now, with Zoom kind of being a fallback. Like next week, I have a student who has sort of a school conflict, and it's easier for us to have her lesson online. So she has a little more time at home to eat and then go to the school concert. So we're doing her lesson online. But I think all of us still have that option. But most of my students are, not most, I guess, but about half of them are beginners. And so for me, at this point, if you're a beginner, I'm going to want to see you in person, because it's really hard to talk about bow hands and what's going on with your left hand through a screen. So I really like seeing people in person for that. But especially for older students and adults, it's definitely a great option that still exists.
Because just so happens, I played a gig on a week and a half ago where the choir director, or the music director of the church I was playing at, has a son who's learning violin in public school. Or maybe not public school, maybe I might be at the Catholic school, but anyways, needs a private teacher.
Hey.
The catch is they live in Burien, so
Okay.
that's a long ways to go
Yeah.
up to see you guys. But then if there's this possibility of Zoom,
Yeah.
I'll try to hook you up with you
Yeah,
guys.
that would be great.
Because she was
And
asking me if I wanted to teach him, and I said, I live in Linwood.
yeah,
So,
that's
and
far.
plus the thing is, my class is so small. I was telling her, there's like, really need somebody who's got a full size class so you can have some interaction with the other students and have a
Yeah.
group type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll send her you guys' way.
Yeah, that would be fun. Well,
Yeah.
that brings up, something. Part of why we want to add more teachers is to grow our own community, but also to be able to have people that live in South Seattle or in Federal Way or Burien that can. So we sort of have map coverage so that
Right.
we can connect with people no matter where they live in the Puget Sound area.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you teach violin and viola, right?
I do. Yeah. I teach
Okay.
violin and viola. Right now we have two teachers that do both violin and viola and two cello teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
What method do you guys use? Like, do you use Suzuki or?
I don't think any of us are particularly committed to one method. I've done
Okay.
Suzuki training for just up through book one so far. I would love to do more, but also
Mhm.
COVID happened. And I've done the teacher training with Mimi Zweig at Indiana University. There's a wonderful teacher retreat that's hosted there that has
Okay.
6 or 7 incredible pedagogues that are there to teach at forget what it's called, but there's a 4-week intensive string camp at Indiana University. And all of these people are there to teach at that camp, but they also do 2 weeks of teacher training during it. Which is amazing because not only did we have like specialized pedagogy classes with them, but we could also watch them teach in person, which was incredible.
Master class type of thing.
Or just watch private lessons, which was amazing. So I've done a fair amount of pedagogy training and I love it. I love talking about how to teach and ways to think about things. So I use a kind of a combination. It depends on the age of the student and what they're looking for out of it. So a combination of Suzuki and Mimi Zweig, Kata Havash.
I think that's the best. I mean, I grew up doing Suzuki, partly because my mom was a Suzuki violin teacher. And, but now, even later in her career, she she did a hybrid where you start the kids out with Suzuki and then usually around book 4 or so is when you start branching off and using like some of the Barbara Barber books. She used a lot of those. Yeah.
And I tend to start even sooner. I mean, part of it for me, so I use the Suzuki books because I think they're a great progression of pieces to learn. They're in an excellent order in terms of difficulty. But most of my students that come to me for viola they're beginners that either started in 5th grade or in 6th grade at middle school.
So they're already older.
Yeah. When you're close to 10, starting off learning by ear, it's not really going to work. And the pace of Suzuki doesn't really work as well. So I use those books, but also augment with the Barber books and a couple other solo things, of course, Wolfhard etudes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the approach is a little bit different, but I also have 2 violin students that are 7 and 8 and they're beginners. So we're kind of doing a mix of, we're learning their pieces by ear, their main repertoire, but we're also already starting to learn to read music separate from their pieces. So we're using these books called I Can Read Music, where it's just A, B, A, B, A, you start off with just a few notes. So they're learning that as a skill separate from the songs that they're learning. But we're starting already because in a couple of years, if they want to participate in school orchestra, I want them to feel comfortable and prepared for that and not overwhelmed. So,
well, a lot of Suzuki teachers don't realize this, but in Japan, the kids fly through the books. like because their parents are real, especially the mom is super dedicated and
Mhm.
make sure the kids practice and they just learn bam, bam, bam,
Yeah.
and they're through it. So by the time they're up to book 10, I mean they're like 7 years old or something or
Yes.
8, and
Yes.
so and that's kind of how it was designed. So then you're ready to go read music,
Yeah.
but in America, it's very common for a kid to take an entire year to do one book or even longer. So by
Yeah.
the time you get to
Longer
book
for sure.
10, you've been playing for 10 years. And if
They're
you
in
don't
high
learn how to
school.
read
Yeah.
between then something isn't quite right. And that's why
Yeah.
you got to do a hybrid.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's, I think it took a long time for me. I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and
Okay.
there were a few of my friends in youth symphony at the time that I think I didn't know much about Suzuki. I started in public school. I started on viola when I was 10 in public school, and just, I don't know when or why I decided that this was the thing I was going to do and couldn't be dissuaded from it.
It called out to you.
It really did. I just wanted to be doing it. And I started taking lessons. I started in 5th grade and then I started taking lessons in 6th grade. But I had some friends that did Suzuki and I could see them in youth symphony kind of struggling with note reading. And so I had my own biases about it that I kind of had to undo because I thought like, that's the fault of the Suzuki method. But it's really up to the teacher to decide when the right time is for each student to make those transitions. So I had to unlearn some things about it. But yeah, it just really is up to the teacher to find the right time to start introducing those skills so that you can have the joy of playing in chamber music and playing in orchestra and not feeling confused and overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah. So I still remember when I think I was like 7. And somehow I ended up in this youth symphony and I couldn't read a single note, right? And I was in the first violin section, but I was kind of in the back. And I realized like the flutes were playing most of what the first violins are playing. So I just listened to the flutes and tried to copy everything they played because I couldn't read anything on the page.
Yeah.
But so, I mean,
well, you made it work though, and you used the skills that you had.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, and I'm envious of that because I didn't grow up with Suzuki. My ability to learn things by ear, like I would love to get more into fiddle music and play Irish and Scottish music, but I just, it's a skill I haven't developed. And so I get really sad when I'm like, man, I need to buy the software that lets you slow it down without pitch distortion and then spend forever learning it. Where some of my friends that grew up fiddling and on Suzuki, just no problem. They can learn anything by ear. And I'm jealous of that.
Interesting.
But I have good sight reading skills. So,
Do you guys teach any kind of improv type of stuff like that?
Not right now. I would love that. It's interesting. I think kids in Seattle they do so much already. I feel like all of my students do sports and are, they're diligent students. They do all their homework. They maybe do busy. More than one music thing. And so it's hard. I really want to be able to have a monthly class that's about like stretches and movements that you can do to help your body as a musician, and to be able to have an improv class and to have theory. I taught a beginning theory class on Zoom at the beginning of the pandemic, and a little bit of music history. I would love to do more of that kind of thing, but everybody's really busy. So
but it's really interesting. Like teaching theory, I know some people get into music theory just for the sake of itself, but I always approach theory as a skill, so that like, of course, once I started learning theory, I immediately want to just use what I learned and start writing pieces.
Yeah.
And then you can also apply music theory to improvising. Mm-hmm. So I think if you teach a little bit of theory, right then you should say, and here's what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And let's try something,
Yeah, I think
then it would,
college, Yeah, there could be more focus on why you should care about theory.
Yeah, because every single professor that's teaching it is a composer.
Yeah.
So it's just, in their mind, it's just assumed, well, everybody needs to know theory.
Yeah. And here's all this complicated stuff. And meanwhile, I'm just like, I play the viola and I was just going to go practice.
Yeah,
Why are we
that's
doing
why I
this?
came here.
Yeah. And I feel like it
Yeah.
wasn't ever really, just explained in a meaningful way that was like, this is why it's important. It's a language that allows us to talk to each other about the music that we're playing. And it opens doors to creativity and more like exploration and expression. But
I will say a little bit of music theory does really help you sight read. Because then you
absolutely.
can go, oh, that's a scale in such and such a key,
Yep.
or there's an arpeggio. Okay, now
Yeah,
I know what to do with it.
totally.
So that really helps your sight
Yes,
reading skills.
absolutely.
Yeah, and but I would say at least the way I grew up, not a single one of my teachers told me one iota about how to improvise. In
Yeah.
fact, to tell you the truth, none of my teachers even told me that when you play a piece in the classical or Baroque style that you're expected to add ornaments and you're expected
Yeah.
to do this and that and you can do what you think. It was always what was on the page.
Yes. Same.
And I had to learn I learned by myself. I learned how to do improvisation, and then I think it wasn't until I was in college when I started realizing that, oh, the reason why there's a repeat is so you can do it different the second time.
Yeah. Yeah. For differences. And I don't think I knew, I mean, part of it is the viola repertoire does not have a lot of classical concertos, but I don't think I knew until late in college that people used to write their own cadenzas.
Right.
Like that was news to me.
Right. That's the whole point of a cadenza, is so that then the musician can now demonstrate their understanding of the piece and their prowess and show what they can do with it.
Yeah. It was fun last year. One of my graduating seniors wanted to write her own cadenza. We were working on the Strawmitz viola concerto, and she wanted to write her own. And
Right.
she actually had been a part of Seattle Girls Choir, and she played some piano and guitar. And she's currently going to school for viola at University of Victoria in British Columbia.
Cool.
But she had, she was a well-rounded musician already, which made my job a delight, because she was like, she really wanted to be there, and she was just super committed to music as a whole. But I love that she wanted to, like, she had that idea herself of like, I want to write my own, like, and she had that initiative and desire to explore that. And
Great.
yeah,
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
She
was a treat.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the one thing that I found lacking in classical training was this is how you have to do it. And then it didn't explore the creative part of your brain. Which is a real shame. And the thing is, it didn't used to be that way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you go back and you hear like Jascha Heifetz recordings, and what do you know? It's the Heifetz cadenza.
Yeah.
Or like David Oistrakh. Oh, he's playing the David Oistrakh cadenza.
Yeah, and it might even be
So
different.
what happened? Somewhere in the middle of the 20th century, suddenly people stopped doing that for some reason.
I don't know. I kind of wonder if kind of this idea of perfectionism became more pervasive as recording became more popular.
That might be it.
People felt pressure from that, but I wonder about that, because it's we all carry a certain amount of neuroses with us, because we want to like play it just right and win the audition and put every note where it belongs, which isn't really expressive. And I think that we would all be maybe a little happier and more creative if we didn't feel so boxed in. And I miss, because I don't have improv skills. Sometimes if I'm alone, I'll mess around for a minute, but that's not really ever a skill or a mindset that was introduced to me as a student.
Yeah. It's something you can learn. You just have to start trying it.
Yeah.
And if you can find people that know how to do it, there's a lot of tricks you can learn.
Yes.
And you develop your own bag of tricks, and there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah.
And it's just a skill like anything else. You kind of learn, and it really helps if you got somebody that can kind of show you how to do it.
Yeah.
Or actually teach you how to do it. And of course, like wind players, they've got the jazz bands and everything, and you learn how to do it, make up your own solo.
Yeah.
you know?
Or even in choir, I was a true music nerd. In junior high, I was in bell choir. I played piano with the more formal choir. I was in a jazz choir. I was in orchestra. My private teacher had me teaching, I think by late junior high. She just said, my studio is full, and here are 3 students that you're going to teach on Saturday mornings. Have fun. I was just,
Hopefully they weren't like her worst students.
No, she's just, I'm full. Here's 3 kids I don't have room for, and they're younger than you. So here you go. And I started teaching.
Great.
But I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I did all kinds of stuff. I don't know where that was going.
Okay, so let's see. What were we talking about?
Through jazz.
Oh, jazz band. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in choir, we had to learn how to improv solos and stuff. And maybe because of classical music, that terrified me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it seems like, jazz band, you learn that. Maybe in choir, you learned that. But as a string player, that's just not normally a skill that you come across, which is too bad.
Yeah, it's really too bad. And it doesn't need to be that way.
No, and if nothing else, hopefully it would just inspire you to feel free when you're playing. It's like actors taking improv classes for comedy or something. It just
and then again, I mean, it used to be part of your training. Like when Corelli writes these church sonatas that are a bunch of whole notes and half notes, it was like you're supposed to do a bunch of stuff around that.
Yeah.
So back then, everybody had that kind of training, and then, like we were talking about before, people were expected to create their own cadenzas. Also, people were expected to add their own trills and ornamentations and do stuff.
Yeah.
Then somehow, somewhere in the 20th century, that whole tradition just completely evaporated. It's really weird.
Because I think about it with pop and rock music too, where people don't want, when they go to see a live concert of somebody, they don't want to hear the live concert version. They want to hear exactly what it sounds like on the CD. And I kind of wonder if that's part of it with classical music is, well, I've heard you play this recording, I've listened to it hundreds of times, and it's jarring if you play it differently. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking pop, it depends on what genre you're talking about.
Totally. Yeah. There's obviously like jam bands.
Obviously not the Grateful Dead.
No, or like Fish or something you're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, it depends who's in the band too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So we were talking about Juniper. Oh yeah, we got to get to Icicle Creek.
I know.
Well, that's a good segue. And
sure.
So you're you better just tell me about it, because I already goofed it up in another interview with
I'm program director of the Summer Symphony Camp, which has been around for at least 10 years, if not more. I'm not sure if it's been around the entire lifespan of Icicle Creek, but this is my first year in that position. I've been a coach for the summer camp for several years, and I've had a great time. And it's a joy for me to be involved at all with Icicle Creek, because I feel like a lot of my life has been shaped around it. My first summer at like a real music camp was at the Chamber Music Institute in 1998. And I think I was maybe 13. I was one of the youngest kids there. And I felt like I met my people. Because in Boise, Idaho, my junior high school was not overrun with other classical music nerds. And I felt like I met my people and
the tribe.
Yeah, I really did. And I just loved it so much. And I went back, I went for 6 years in a row to Icicle Creek and to the Chamber Music Institute. And it was just like some of the fondest memories of my life are from that. And it kind of shaped my school journey a little bit. I ended up going to Central Washington University for my undergrad because Carrie Rakoff.
What year?
2003 to 2007 is when I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was because my oldest went there also.
Yeah. When I
Yeah.
actually, so I got to meet him and work with him a little bit. The new viola professor, Dr. Michelle Ron, she took maternity leave for her first child, and I had the pleasure of subbing for her for a couple of weeks. And I
Oh,
got to,
really?
yeah, so I got to work with some of the students in her studio, and so I
Great.
met your son. He was a lot of fun to talk to.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so I ended up going to Central as a student because Carrie Rakoff, John Michelle, and Scott Hosfeld all taught there. Scott left after my freshman year, but he and his wife, Marcia, were part of the people that started Icicle Creek, along with Maria Newman.
Right. And
And so,
we're all assuming everybody knows what Icicle Creek
yeah.
is. So it's in Leavenworth, right?
Yeah, in Leavenworth, Washington. It shares a campus with Sleeping Lady, which is a beautiful resort tucked away along the river in Leavenworth, Washington.
And you might even want to describe what Leavenworth is.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Leavenworth is a special place. It is a Bavarian themed town because the area of the Cascades that it's in looks a lot like the Alps. And so somebody had the great idea that all the buildings should look like little gingerbread buildings. So even the McDonald's and the Safeway have appropriate decor. I'm pretty sure there's zoning for every bit of new construction. So there's a lot of lederhosen and beer, and it's a hoot. It's kind of goofy on the face of it. You know, I say a lot, like, I love Leavenworth so much, and it's fun to visit, but the Leavenworth that I'm talking about is really actually, I think maybe Icicle Creek and Sleeping Lady, but it's a beautiful place. Good hiking. You can do rafting. There's skiing nearby in the winter. Like, it's just an outdoor paradise. But yeah, so it's this wacky little Bavarian town, but if you leave the main drag and go down Icicle Road and cross a few bridges, you get to Sleeping Lady, which is a beautiful sort of eco resort, I guess, founded by Harriet Bullitt. If you're familiar with the Bullitt Foundation, they do a lot of environmental work. And the people that founded Icicle Creek somehow got connected with her, and she helped them get off the ground. So the first year that I went to Icicle Creek, as the Chamber Music Institute, like the campus of Icicle Creek didn't exist. We got to stay in Sleeping Lady cabins. We ate at their super fancy restaurant. It was unreal. And eventually it grew. And then they built the campus that exists now, which is equally as magical. But yeah, so I was a student there for 6 years during that growth. And I ended up going to Central because of it. And then I ended up moving to California and going to USC because of connections with teachers from there as well. And I went back with a string quartet. I was in a string quartet for 4 years that did some graduate residency programs, and I drug them back with me. And now that I live in Seattle, it's been really fun to return to the Summer Symphony Camp as a coach and now as the program director.
Okay. So when you were there, did you have any interaction with the piano department, like with Lisa Bergman stuff?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I remember her being, I think she performed, but she was also kind of an MC for some of the concerts. But
Oh, okay.
it was mostly Oksana Yuzhokina, she's heads up the Chamber Music Institute and I think she lives in Leavenworth still. But yeah, I met Lisa. I knew who she was.
Okay.
I don't know if we ever really got to work together. But yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you're still so you have an administrative role, obviously, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think I'm sad though, you know, I love getting to work with students. And so I'm a little sad that I don't actually have to replace myself as a viola coach. I have to find someone else to do that job because I'll be busy doing other things. But
Okay.
it's really fun to get to work in this role because just for me personally, Icicle Creek is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So it means a lot to me to be in that position, even though it's just a week-long summer camp. fairly kind of low impact, I guess, but it's really important to me. So I'm excited to be a part of it and to get to work with their brand new executive director, Philip Lacey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean are you like figuring out who gets what bed in what room and that kind of stuff?
Fun things like, what are you allergic to? Do you have any dietary restrictions? Please send me your audition. I need to find counselors that kind of help oversee the students. There's a counselor in each cabin. They're usually college age students, the counselors, and how many beds, what instrument do you play? And especially this year, there's still some COVID complications. So
do you snore? Do you snore?
Yeah. Right. I'm not, Godspeed. I'll buy a bucket of earplugs and, good luck. But, just kind of sorting out the nuts and bolts of, auditions, figuring out scholarships and, instrumentation, coaches,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Forms. Yes. Liability forms. Yeah. What activity do you want to go horseback riding or rafting?
Horseback riding.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
that's
can go.
fun.
There's some stables that are just across the lane from Sleeping Lady. So one of the activities you can sign up for is horseback riding.
Oh, that's fun.
But most people choose rafting because by the end of June, the dates this year are June 19 through 25. I think it's usually that week in June. And by then it's pretty toasty in Leavenworth. So it's a great time to get on the river, which is correctly named Icicle Creek. It is quite cold. Yeah. So you want it to be nice and hot before you get in a raft.
Because the water comes from the Cascades, right?
Yes.
Just coming from the melting snow.
Yeah.
That's why it's so cold.
Yeah. So when it's, some of my summers there was probably 100, 110, and it's just like absolutely.
Whoa, 110.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, because you're on the other side of the mountains. Yeah.
Yeah. Toasty.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not usually that warm for the summer symphony camp, but in July,
that's cool.
Warm.
But are you going to be like part of the faculty string quartet or something like that? Or
yeah, I hope so. This is my first year doing it, so I'm not sure what I'll have time for. My predecessor, her name was Annie Chalmers. She was amazing. I think she played in the faculty recital. I can't remember, but I just kind of always remember, we worked together beforehand and during camp, but for the most part, she was always riding off on her bicycle to go take care of something else and make sure lunch is ready and that the buses are going to show up at the right time. But I hope so. I love administrating. It's great because it fits in with a freelancer schedule and that I can do it when I can find time to do it. But I also don't want to give up the playing and teaching part of it. So
yeah.
I will weasel my way into the faculty recital.
Oh, that's going to be neat.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad, we haven't been able to have camp for the last 2 summers. So I'm really glad that we have found a way to do it this summer. So I think everybody is excited about it.
That's going to be neat.
Yeah.
And how many kids are usually, I think at camp it's kids, but it's not kids. It's adults and students, right?
Well, so they do have retreats, I believe. I don't work with these programs, but there are, adult retreats for pianists, I think, and that kind of thing.
Okay. I think that's what Lisa's was.
Oh, okay.
For adult pianists, I think.
Yeah. So there are retreats like that, but this camp is for high school age and younger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's kind of a smallish symphony of older kids, usually late middle school to high school. And then there's a younger group called Academy that is usually like 7 and 8 years old up to the middle of middle school, kind of depending on where they're at with their playing.
Now these orchestras have conductors, right?
Yes. Yes.
They're
they
normal
do,
orchestras.
we are not trusting people to rehearse themselves. Yeah, we have incredible conductors. Kara Honeycutt is a cellist who grew up in Wenatchee and has done all kinds of things. She's currently principal of the Yakima Symphony, and she works with the youngest group. And she's just a saint. She comes prepared with all kinds of music and is so great with them. In the afternoons, they get to color and play with toys. And usually I'm jealous because I'm over there having a sectional going like, I like coloring. Can I come hang out with you guys?
I never got to color in orchestra.
I know, she's so fun. So she works with the younger group. And she has a couple of coaches that work with that group of kids. And then Adrian Shields is the conductor now for the symphony, and she's wonderful. She lives in the Tri-Cities and is an incredible conductor and teacher. The first year that she came to camp, she was actually replacing Nick Kawili, who had been doing it for a few years. And
we know Nick because he now conducts, well, also he was a very well-known conductor at Central Washington. Yes. And then also he's now the conductor of Lake Union Civic Orchestra that we both play in.
Yeah. So. And I love him so much. He's such a wonderful conductor, human. I have so much respect as a musician for his ability to plan rehearsal time,
And he's a Trekkie.
Yes. Okay. I know. I've never
Another
told
plus.
you. I've never seen a single episode of Star Trek.
Well, we'll work on that.
I know. We'll work on it. But yeah, whoops, excuse me. My computer is telling me something I don't need to know.
Bad computer.
Yeah, I didn't need to know about keyboard assistant. That wasn't important.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Nick was teaching there for a few years, and he decided to step away, and Adrian took over. And just the first summer working with her, I was just blown away. She was so wonderful. She's full of enthusiasm and knowledge. She's an incredible conductor, and was just able to really provide a lot of context for what we were playing and talk about it historically, bring a lot of character into it. She's also an opera singer. And so she has that's an incredible skill to have, to be able to sing a part to someone and say like,
and you're a conductor, you're like, do it like this. Boom, boom, boom,
yeah. So she's full of enthusiasm. And so she thinks a lot about character and motivation for what's going on, even for symphonic works. She's an incredible person. She's a wonderful human and also is a great conductor. She plays the harp at a professional level. That was what her undergrad degree was in. She's an opera singer, and she likes to pretend like she can't do it very well, but she also plays some violin. Okay. So she's bringing a lot to the table.
So she probably also has an act where she sings and plays the harp at the same time.
Well, so this is when her kind of acting skills come into play. For the faculty recital, we did some songs from Hamilton, and she did all of like the rapping and singing, and it was amazing. Yeah, cool. She's a rock star. So she's the conductor for the symphony, and I'm so glad that she can come back this year. I hope she can always do it. It's just such a gift. And it's so wonderful, I think, to have a woman in that position, because that's a little rarer than it should be. So yeah, I love having her there. So yeah, Kara and Adrian are our conductors for the larger ensembles, and they absolutely make the experience. And of course, we have a lot of amazing coaches that come in for violin, viola, cello, woodwinds, brass, percussion. So we have a great faculty across the board, but I'm super grateful for our conductors.
Speaking of women conductors, have you ever heard of or known Frances Walton?
No, I don't know that name.
She's basically the person behind Thalia symphonies.
Oh,
have you heard of Thalia?
Okay.
Yeah, and she was a well-established woman conductor in the Seattle area way back in the 70s.
Okay.
And not only was she able to hold her own as a woman, but she's a great conductor.
Awesome.
So, in fact, she even took some lessons from Leonard Bernstein.
Wow.
Yeah, awesome. She was. I think the story was she was at Tanglewood, and he spotted her, and somehow he saw her conducting, or saw her playing cello, or somehow he came up to her and said, "You're a great conductor. You should do this." He really encouraged her. And so
Awesome.
she took it to heart.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, usually what's missing is the opportunity to connect with someone that can kind of help you find
Yeah,
a
your
path
mentor.
forward.
Yeah. There's a lot to it, as you know. I mean, it's more than just waving the stick. I mean, it's all about leadership.
Yes.
Also, there's a lot of politics you got to play behind the scenes. It's all, I mean, it's a lot that goes into it, you know? So.
And boards. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to work with boards of directors of orchestras.
Yeah.
And you get to fundraise.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole deal.
Yeah.
So that's something. Wow.
Yeah, Icicle Creek is just a wonderful place. And, you know, we're obviously not the only program they have. There's the Chamber Music Institute, piano retreats for adults and students. I think they have some theater programs in the summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a lot going on up there, and they host concerts. They have a pretty active calendar. They have live groups coming through. I think they also do like the Met Opera simulcast performances in their theater there. So yeah, there's a lot going on up there all the time. So if you're ever in Leavenworth, see what's going on out at Icicle Creek. It's a great place. Plus it's just beautiful. It's so beautiful.
We're kind of running out of time, so this is a short question, but so what does the theater do? Is it like Shakespeare and stuff like that, or what is it?
It's a theater program for kids. I don't know much about it. I'm not involved with that, but I know that it exists. So I think any aspiring thespians can check out their summer programs.
Do they ever try to get some of the music students to come over and be in the pit orchestra for them or something?
I wish. I don't know if they do musical theater or if it's just plays, but that happens at a different time, because I think each camp that's there kind of takes over the campus. So there's only one going on at a time, but that would be so fun if they ever had like a merged experience.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing that like you learn by doing it. Typically your music teacher doesn't tell you what it takes to like play in a pit orchestra, you know.
No.
Or actually they don't even tell you what it takes to be good at doing gigs.
No, you know, I talk about that a lot with friends, and what we wish we'd learned in college, that to leave with a music degree, you should learn how to market yourself, especially in this day and age, with social media.
Social media, yeah.
Yeah. One, you know, like you need to respond to emails in a timely manner. You need to know how to market yourself. You need to know how to advocate for yourself and find and create opportunities. You have to be a little bit of an entrepreneur. There should be personal finance classes, how to do taxes as a freelancer or as a musician. Like that's hard. And a lot of us artists we're not going to sit down and read tax code for fun. And it would be,
I always did TurboTax.
Yeah. I mean, me too, because I just, I have a friend who's a musician. He's also an accountant for his job. And so he's a great resource for questions, but there's so much more to being a musician than just playing the right notes. And it's
way more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of opportunities out there, but someone has to tell you about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so much of it is networking.
Yeah.
Now I think in a way it's easier because of social media. It's easier to get yourself out there.
Yeah, or just to remind people that you exist. Like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well.
I mean, you got to go to the parties.
And go to other concerts.
Yeah.
Say hi to people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know if did you know Barbara Green, the lady that came up to us during the intermission of our concert?
No, I didn't recognize her. She seems super sweet though.
She was one of my teachers in high school. And she taught our string quartet. So I knew her from way back. And actually I met her at a music camp. I think I met her at a Thalia music camp when I was 11.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Like 50, 40 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, how old am I? Okay, so that would have been 44 years ago. Anyway, so Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Networking.
Just maintaining. I mean, I'm so grateful for the friendships that I have. All of my friends are musicians. I don't know where people are making non-musician friends. That just doesn't happen for me, but I'm so grateful that, especially in Seattle, I don't know, all of my friends are my colleagues, and I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations for doing all this stuff.
Thank you.
It's really neat.
There are crimes of opportunity, but I'm grateful for all of them.
Yeah. And that's kind of the typical thing that a musician has to do, is you have to piece together a whole bunch of different things, right?
Yeah, it's a jigsaw puzzle of, especially, I think I've just always loved chamber music, but I never had the drive or the desire to try and win a symphony seat anywhere.
Same with me.
Yeah. And I think I prefer this. I think it can be exhausting sometimes, but I really enjoy getting to do a little bit of everything that I can balance. I have a small private studio, but I love teaching. But because it's small, that means I can also take gigs on weekends and go out of town to play in regional orchestras. And I have time in my day to add this administrative position with the Summer Symphony. So it's never boring, which is great. And I don't know, it's just, I get to say yes to the things that sound exciting. And that's, I love that.
Yeah. And plus, like in the Seattle area, there's so much music happening, and there's so many really good community orchestras.
Yes.
So it's not like any of us are missing out by not playing in the Seattle Symphony.
Yes.
We can still go play a really high quality performance.
Yes.
The difference being is that it's not a grind that we're doing just to get paid. We're doing it because we want to do it.
Yeah.
Because we love the music.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still really high quality performances.
I agree.
So it's not like we're missing that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, is there anything else you want to just like wrap up or plug before we call it good?
I don't think so. I would love for people to check out Juniper, especially
link in the description.
Yeah. If there are anybody out there that wants to join us as a teacher and learn more about what that looks like, come to our choir performance on Sunday. Come see Noko.
This one was what we're talking about.
Yeah, standing tall. Yeah. Everything.
Noko. I'll put the link to Noko in the description.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We have concerts.
And Noko stands for what?
North Corner Chamber Orchestra.
North Corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when it started, most of the founders lived in North Seattle at the time, I think.
Okay. North Corner.
So Noko has kind of become the prevailing way of referring to it.
That's how I always hear about it. Noko.
Yeah, noko.org.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, so it's Juniper, Noko, Icicle Creek.
Send your students to Icicle Creek.
Yeah. Great.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Kelly.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll look forward to doing our concert on Sunday together again.
Yes, I'm excited to do it again.
Okay. All right. Well, take care.
Thanks so much, you too.
Fantastic creations emerging spontaneously from the space of life.
For the benefit of all beings everywhere.
We gotta